Hey guys, this video is to help you understand what steps to take to complete the writing formative number 1. So if you're watching this, you probably have this document open already. If not, make sure that you do. The first step you should make sure you've taken is to read through the prompt. So let's do that. Find a scene in Romeo and Juliet that demonstrates a cultural norm that we have studied. Okay, and then here are the norms. These are the ones I've been asking you to track. So it could be parent-child relationships, feuds, marriage and love, loyalty and friendship. Then you're going to analyze this cultural norm in the same scenes from this version and this version of the films, of the play. Then in a 2-paragraph response, explain how the demonstration of this norm differs across films. And then we're going to use this rubric here to help us make sure everything we need to include in the response is there. So the first thing you should be thinking is this is really similar to the learning checkpoint. Essentially, you're doing the same thing as you did in the learning checkpoint, but this time you're picking a norm. So remember in the checkpoint, I gave you feuds, but now you can pick any of those 4. You could do feuds again, you would just have to pick a different scene, or you can pick one of these other norms. Then, just like in the learning checkpoint, you should create a Venn diagram. That way you can watch the scene in this version of the play and in this version of the play. So you'll watch those 2 scenes that portray one of these cultural norms. And then in the same exact way we did it in the learning checkpoint, you can record what's similar and what's different. Then, once you have done that, once you have that Venn diagram set up, or you have your notes taken, then you can draw some conclusions. So just like in the learning checkpoint, you drew a conclusion about what each of those films is portraying about the norm. So you'll write a claim using the same materials that we used for the learning checkpoint. But this time your claim is about how one of these norms is portrayed across the 2 different texts. So you'll write a claim. Then you're going to write a 2-paragraph response explaining how that norm differs across films. So the learning checkpoint was basically to give you ideas about how to set this up. The only difference now is instead of just stopping at the claim, now you'll write that claim and then you're writing 2 paragraphs that support the claim. So supporting a claim that in this version of the play, parent-child relationships are portrayed as blank, while in this version of the play, parent-child relationships are portrayed as blank. Now, if you think about it for a second, if you do a really good Venn diagram, you've basically identified all the evidence you need to use in your paragraphs. So before you start, make sure you do that Venn diagram, because then when you're defending your claim about how the norm is different in the different films, you can bring up, in this film, here's how this line is said, while in the other film, the line is said this way. And that's going to help you support your claim about how that norm is portrayed. If we look at the rubric, you can see the expectations for RL7 are exactly the same. So if you earned a 3 in the last one and your Venn diagram looks the same for this one, then you have all the evidence you'll need, right? So as you watch, make sure you are taking great notes in your Venn diagram. Next is RL9, where you need to explain the director's demonstration of the cultural norm. This one we did not do in the learning checkpoint. And that's because in this one, you're going to be writing 2 paragraphs. So in those paragraphs, you're going to be explaining this. In the learning checkpoint, we didn't give you the chance to explain. We just asked you to give the examples and write a claim. So you're going to make sure that you're fully explaining how each director demonstrates the cultural norm. Finally, the skills of W2, the claim. So if you wrote the claim successfully on the learning checkpoint, use that as your guide. The only thing that's changing, right, is the cultural norm and what is portrayed about that cultural norm. Then organizing your response so that the reader can follow your thinking. That just means it's organized like a regular argument. You don't want to jump around. You don't want to be confusing. You want to introduce a claim, give evidence, use a warrant, draw a conclusion. Using transitions to link ideas. That means you're using transition words and transition phrases to move on to the other ideas in your writing. So you're not just stopping a sentence and starting the new one. You're using some transition words. If you're not sure what that means, Google it. Look up what are some common transitions. You'll find lots and lots of lists. And then finally, maintaining a formal style. That means you're going to keep you're going to keep using third person. You're going to use present tense. Those are the parts of formal style that we practiced prior to this quarter, so that's what you should do. So when it says formal style, that means you're not using informal language, right? So you are writing like an academic student, and you're using third person, he, him, they, one, and you're using present tense. An example of present tense is instead of saying I won't use I. Romeo went to Juliet's party, right? That's past tense. We don't use past tense. We're going to say Romeo attends or goes to or appears at Juliet's party. So third person, present tense, and then picking words and phrases that match with the assignment that you're doing. Once you have finished, you'll submit to Blackboard, and then this video here, once I grade it and put it in the grade book, which every day I'm checking them and entering them, you can use this video to see which criteria you met and which criteria you still need to work on. Those of you who did the prompt breakdown for the quarter 4 end of unit prompt, you're going to start to see if you can do these skills by the end of the quarter. When we get to that final assignment, you're going to be totally ready. Just like in third quarter, if you practiced all these skills all the way along, it's not that confusing to write the final essay. All right, so if you end up needing help, please let me know. I'm happy to make another video or talk you through it. Just remember, the learning checkpoint was a learning checkpoint to help you be more successful on this. So take what you did well in the learning checkpoint and move it over to this assignment, since you already know that you did well on that one. All right, let me know if you have questions. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys later.